My beloved child, in this seemingly ordinary moment, can you sense something sacred gently touching your soul? It's not thunder or blinding light. Buddha quiet, undeniable presence, my presence, the presence of your Creator, standing very near to you. You don't need to strain your senses to feel it, for the deepest stirrings within your soul are already the clearest confirmation. I do not come as a distant stranger, but as a father who has long watched over your every step with silent yet fierce love. If you feel a stirring inside, know that it is not a fleeting emotion, but a whisper from heaven, a gentle invitation calling you to open your heart and softly say, "Come, Lord Jesus, please come." I have not come to condemn or accuse, but to rescue and restore. I have seen the things you've endured in silence, the questions you've buried deep inside, and the long nights when your soul trembled for reasons you could not explain. At times, it seemed as though every hope you clung to had slipped away, as if doors slammed shut just as you tried to move forward. But hear this clearly. My child, there is not a single door that closed without my knowledge. No path was blocked without purpose in my loving plan for you. Often, my silence is not absence, but a shield protecting you from what, if allowed, would shatter your soul. You may have thought you were rejected or forgotten, but in truth, you were being kept safe within my sheltering hands. There are things you longed for so deeply it felt like you couldn't live without them, and people whose absence carved a pain in your heart as if you lost a part of yourself. But you do not see what I see. I have turned you away from relationships that would have led you away from the light. I have drawn lines before desires that could have consumed your tender faith. I have quietly withdrawn hands that seemed gentle, but bore hidden wounds. When I withhold something from your life, it is never because you are unworthy, but because I have seen the end from the beginning, and I know you are worthy of more. Do not let sorrow over what hasn't happened dim the joy of what I am preparing for you. For the blessings I give are not like those the world offers. They are born from a heart full of grace and come at the exact moment your soul is ready to receive them. Look back over your life. Peer into the moments that seemed random. Do you not see that I have been present? Always, even when you did not ask. I kept you safe. When you were weary and didn't know how you could go on, it was my invisible hands that lifted you. When you were in despair, and a tiny flicker of hope suddenly warmed your heart, that was not luck, it was me, the one who sees every tear and hears every silent sigh. Just as the birds of the air do not sow or reap or gather into barns, and yet are fed by the Father, how much more valuable are you? Made in my image, do not measure your worth by what you've lost, by missed opportunities, or by dreams that seem delayed. Let my faithfulness be your only measure. If I withhold something, it is only because I am reserving space for something greater, something that will arrive at the perfect time in my eternal plan. Sometimes, the best things do not come in the way you expect, but they will come in a way you will never forget. And when they do, you will see that every tear, every quiet step along the lonely road was not in vain. Every moment you walked in faith without seeing the full picture was a seed of trust. And the harvest will come in the light of the love I have always had for you. My beloved child, there are things in life that you will not be able to understand with your limited comprehension. You may have wondered why certain people only enter your life for a brief moment, only to leave behind an emptiness that feels impossible to fill. You may have blamed yourself for trusting the wrong people, for placing your faith in what seemed good, only to be met with disappointment. But listen, my child, I do not allow anything to happen by accident. Fleeting encounters, broken connections, even unformed dreams, all are within my providence. When I remove someone from your life, it is not because you are not enough, but because I am protecting you, guiding you toward the destiny I have truly prepared for you. You may not see it in the moment, but in time, when your mind quiets and your soul is still, you will recognize that I rescued you in moments when you didn't even know you needed saving. I closed off paths that seemed promising, but were lined with unseen dangers. I held you back when your heart was eager to run through dazzling doors that, though bright, carried no life within. It was never to hurt you, but because I love you too deeply to let go. If one day you look back and give thanks for the things that never came to pass, then you will have begun to grasp the depth of my love. There are things you've asked for that I did not grant, not because I was indifferent, but because I was preparing something else, something better, deeper, longer lasting for your soul. When a door closes and you find yourself standing there, lost or disappointed, know that I am opening another, greater door, even if it lies beyond your sight. For now, when you are forced to stop along a path that once seemed smooth and full of promise, it is not failure, it is me rerouting you, so you don't miss the destination I marked for you from the foundation of time. I want you to understand that true blessings do not always come wrapped in what you expect. Sometimes, they come in the form of a denial, a separation, or a long silence. Yet hidden within them is a plan that transcends everything your eyes can see and your ears can hear. I am the one who sees into the depths of your heart, who knows every word you haven't spoken, every wound you've yet to reveal. I know when you're weary from holding on, when you're close to losing hope, and in those very moments, I tighten my grip on your hand. You don't need to prove anything to be loved by me, and you don't need to understand everything to be guided by me. My love for you is not built on your perfect understanding, but on my eternal faithfulness. Remember that my eyes see far beyond your vision. I see choices that seem harmless but could lead you away from me. I see steps that, if not stopped in time, would lead you into cycles of disappointment, sorrow, and confusion. So when I say no, or when everything halts without explanation, understand that this too is love in the form of discipline. A good father does not let his child run headfirst into danger just because it feels joyful in the moment. In the same way, I do not let you continue in things that would drain the sacred life within you. Even if you have not yet recognized the danger, remember what I have spoken through the words of Proverbs. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. This means you do not need a map, because I am the way. You do not need to have all the answers, because I am the truth. And you do not need to fear the darkness, because I am the light that is always with you, shining even into the deepest places of your soul. Rest in this, nothing is ever truly lost in me. Even the dreams that seem to have vanished, the opportunities that slipped away, and the moments you once thought were meant to be, they truly belong to you. They can never be taken from you when you are living within my will. And if I allowed them to pass, it is because I have held back something of greater worth. A day will come when your heart no longer carries blame, when your eyes see with the wisdom that comes from me, and you will quietly whisper to yourself, "Thank you for not giving me what I once pleaded for." My beloved, if ever you find yourself standing at a crossroads between what you long for and what you sense, I am calling you in to know that it is in that very place where true faith is revealed. It is not always easy to distinguish what is my voice and what is merely the echo of your personal desires, but even in the faintest stirrings of your heart, I am speaking. I do not force, but invite. I do not shout, but whisper just enough for those who truly seek me to be still and hear. You may see a path that appears beautiful, lined with opportunity and praise. But if it is not part of my design, then that beauty is only a shell covering emptiness. I do not lead you to places of brilliance just to abandon you in the shadows. If I lead you down a narrow, rough, even lonely road, it is because the end of that path is the very place where my glory will be revealed most clearly. And it is along that journey that you will learn what no effortless success could ever teach you: how to listen deeply, how to discern wisely, and how to trust fully without condition. Know that there are relationships that once seemed perfect, opportunities that appeared perfectly timed, and yet I closed those doors. You may have wrestled with frustration, grieved over the loss, and questioned my ways, but you do not yet know what I have been protecting for your future. It might be a peace you have never known before, a doorway that leads to the life you have truly longed for, or a freedom untouched by the expectations and wounds of others. I do not take anything away without preparing something far more precious in its place. Look at the life of Joseph, the one I chose to be a vessel of salvation in a time of famine. I did not place him on the throne by way of comfort or ease. I led him through the pit, through betrayal, through prison, through long seasons of being forgotten. And yet, each rejected step became a rung in the ladder that lifted him to the place where my grace would be displayed in fullness. Joseph did not understand why injustice followed him at every turn, but he remained faithful, and it was because of that faith that he could one day stand before those who had harmed him and say, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Do you see? What once felt like harm became the very substance of divine provision. And that is true for you too. My child, I am using even the moments when you feel lost, even the seasons when you feel cast aside, to shape you for a role greater than you can imagine. I am not only healing the wounds you carry, I am using those very wounds to create in you a heart that knows how to empathize, how to walk alongside others, how to love with a love that has been refined. When you let go of what you think is good to take hold of what I know is best, that is the very moment you cross over from a life of the ordinary to a sacred journey. You will no longer be one who lives according to circumstances, but one who walks under the guidance of heaven. My child, you do not need to hurry. The timing I prepare is always the right timing. And when you remain faithful in the small things, when you don't give up in the seasons where there are no explanations, you are proving that your faith is not just theory, it is a living response. I see your silent sacrifices, the times you chose to forgive even when no apology was given, the moments you placed your trust in me even when you couldn't yet see the path ahead. None of that is forgotten. In eternity, they are precious gems, proof that you are not living for convenience, but for obedience. Dear one, while you wait, do not let your heart grow weary, because what I am building inside of you is greater than anything you're asking me for on the outside. Let your heart beat in rhythm with my will, for only there will you find complete joy. When you surrender your need to understand everything and instead learn to trust me in every circumstance, you will discover that you are no longer shaken by the winds of change. You will stand firm not because you are strong, but because I am the one who holds you up, my beloved child. When something you cherished is taken from your hands, the first thing you often feel is loss. You look back and wonder, if I loved it that much, if I poured so much hope and effort into it, why would you let it fade away? But child, true love does not cling to what no longer fits. True love knows when to let go so your wings can be guided to a truer direction. And my love for you always includes removing the things that, if left, would dry out your soul. You once believed you were ready, you convinced yourself you could handle the consequences, and you stepped through doors you thought I had opened. But child, there are doors I did not build, and if I don't close them, they will swallow the deeper dreams I've planted in you. I don't want you to live a temporary life, drifting through these precious years. I am calling you into fullness, and sometimes, to bring you to that fullness, I must prune even the things that appear good but don't bear lasting fruit. Perhaps you longed for a certain relationship, an opportunity, a specific turn in life, and when it didn't happen, you tasted disappointment like a moonless night. But what you don't see is that in that darkness, I am watching over you and rearranging everything. Your dreams are not forgotten by me. I am simply reshaping them to better fit the true design of your soul. When I say no, it is not rejection. It is confirmation that you were created for something higher, deeper, and more enduring. Child, remember the story of Job. He was upright, blameless, and devoted to me with all his heart. Yet one day, everything he had, his family, his wealth, his health vanished like smoke. People looked at him with suspicion, assuming he must have done something wrong. But I knew his heart, and Job, in the depths of his pain, could still say, "Though he slay me, yet will I hope in him." His unwavering faith became a declaration that echoes through generations, a reminder to you that steadfastness in faith is not measured by what you possess, but by the trust you place in me. Even when all else falls apart, I restored Job, not only giving back what he had lost, but blessing him with twice as much, not because he had done anything to deserve it, but because he did not abandon his faith, even when he had no visible reason to hold on. My child, where are you in that journey? Are you in a season of life where things feel unclear, where you no longer sense my guidance as you once did? If so, know this: I am still there. My silence is not my absence. I am silent because I am at work reaching into the deepest parts of your soul, where words cannot go. My beloved, spiritual maturity does not grow from peaceful days, but from seasons when you choose to believe, even when there's nothing solid to cling to. When your faith is no longer just a song on your lips, but a daily decision to keep going, to obey, not to rebel, and not to give up. These choices, though unseen by others, are recorded in heaven, for they mark someone being prepared for something far greater. Do not let fleeting emotions rob you of the greater vision. Do not let the voices of people drown out my whisper within you, and do not let temporary failures cause you to reject what I am forming. For you are not defined by what you have lost, but by all that I am preparing you to become. The true blessing does not lie in achieving what you desire, but in keeping a tender heart, a faithful spirit, and eyes fixed on me. Despite changing circumstances, my precious child, I know there have been times when you felt left behind. You look around and see others advancing, being blessed, having doors opened, while you who have tried to follow my lead feel stuck in a silent land. But, child, you are not forgotten. Not a single drop of sweat shed for righteousness has been wasted. Not a single quiet decision to stand for truth has gone unnoticed. The seasons when you see no blossoms do not mean the seeds aren't taking root. Some growth only happens in the dark. Some preparation is only complete in silence. I am using this very delay to build within you a kind of faith no longer based on sight, but rooted in unshakable trust. This is the faith of those who crossed the Red Sea with enemies behind them and a raging tide ahead. It is the faith of those who marched around Jericho for 7 days without seeing a single stone tremble. It is the faith of people like you who choose to pray daily, even without a miracle, who choose to love, even when met with silence, who choose to obey, even when they do not understand. Such faith moves heaven. Dear one, I see the weariness in your heart. I know the nights when you lie awake, staring at the ceiling and asking, "When?" Lord, you are not the only one who has ever asked that question. I remember Moses, who faithfully led my people through the wilderness for 40 years, though he never stepped into the promised land. I remember Hebrews 11, the chapter of those called heroes of faith, who lived without receiving the fullness of what was promised in their lifetimes, yet remained faithful to the end. Not because they were forgotten, but because their reward was being prepared in a place beyond all earthly comparison. So do not think that delay is a sign of denial. Do not let the enemy sow seeds of doubt in your heart about your worth simply because you have not yet seen what you long for. My promises are never void. If I have spoken, I will fulfill it. But I will do so in my timing, not yours. I will take you where you need to go, but I will not shorten the journey just to satisfy impatience. For it is in the journey that I am refining you, shaping you, and teaching you to walk not by feelings, but by the steadfastness that comes from faith. You may think you are ready, but only I know when your heart is deep enough to carry the blessing without it becoming your downfall. I do not desire to give you anything that will lead you to pride, harden your heart, or cause you to trade intimacy with me for the applause of the world. So, when I ask you to wait, it is because I am protecting what is most precious, the relationship between you and me. Some things, if they arrive too soon, will be a burden rather than a blessing. I love you too much to place in your hands something your soul is not yet prepared to carry. You may not understand it all, but I am inviting you to trust me enough to rest, enough to stop carving your own path, enough to refrain from forcing your will into what I am building. When you learn this, you will no longer be swayed by rumors or pulled along by what your eyes see and ears hear. You will live by my word, not by fleeting emotions. You will walk with steady steps, not because everything is clear, but because you know the one who leads you is faithful. My beloved child, I am not just preparing a blessing for you. I am preparing you for that blessing. I am not only opening the right door, but I also want to see you walk through it with the right heart. For if you enter a new season without carrying the wisdom I planted in the old one, you will lose what was meant to be preserved. So keep moving forward. Don't miss the lesson just because you're eager for the result. Don't run to the finish line if you haven't yet learned the value of each step, because the most precious thing is not the destination, it's the person you become along the way. In the waiting, there will be moments when your heart feels empty, like a field after harvest. Long days may pass without a sign, without a sound, and you may wonder if I am still there. But, my child, let me remind you of something your soul must hold fast to. My silence is not my absence. It is a sacred moment I have set apart to shape you, not through the noise around you, but through the wisdom I am forming within you. When you have nothing left to cling to, when every ounce of faith must be sifted from emotion, then you will find the most precious thing of all, me. Not a miracle, not an open door, not the fulfillment of your wait, but me. I am your portion. I am unchanging. I am the source of everything you need. And you will not fully see the worth of that unless you have walked through seasons that felt barren. It is the lack on the outside that deepens the thirst on the inside, so that your soul may learn to seek the only well that never runs dry. My child, the things you wept over when you lost them, perhaps, I intentionally took them away to protect your soul from slipping into self-sufficiency. There are dreams which, if fulfilled too soon, would rob you of the childlike heart that seeks me. There are relationships which, if prolonged just a little longer, would draw you away from my voice. And there are achievements which, if attained before your heart is refined, would imprison you within the very things you once longed for. So when I withhold something, I am not stealing your hope. I am clearing the path for a more enduring one. A future where you won't need to compromise your true self to reach it. You once prayed, Lord, please use me according to your will. And I heard you. But to use you in the way I intend, I must first shape you. I need to reshape thoughts that have been colored by fear, expectations shaped by worldly ambition, and limits you placed on yourself that I never intended for you. That process can feel like losing yourself, but in truth, it is a rebirth into a truer, deeper, and more authentic version of yourself in me. Remember David, whom I anointed to be king while he was still a youth. But the throne did not come the next day. Instead, he spent years in caves, fleeing from enemies, misunderstood and alone. It was in those hidden years that he learned how to worship in trial, to wait without bitterness, and to trust when the promise felt distant. The years without the light of the throne were the very years when the light of his faith shone the brightest. Those were not wasted years, they were chosen years, forged to refine a heart worthy of a crown. You too, my child, are being prepared for a position, a calling, a responsibility that your eyes cannot yet fully perceive. The lessons you're learning today are not only for surviving this present season, but for sustaining what I will entrust to you in the next. Many have received blessings but lost them because their inner foundation was too weak. But I do not want that for you. I don't just want to give you something good, I want to see you walk in it fully to the end. So do not despise the teaching that happens in the dark. Do not measure this season by emotions or numbers. Do not compare your journey with others. For what I am doing in you is uniquely your own. When it seems like you are being delayed, in truth, you are being protected from stepping into something you're not yet prepared for. When you see no visible results, know that your roots of faith are growing deep, so that one day you may stand firm in the storms. My beloved child, when my time comes, You will enter not with fear of how long you can keep it, but with the strength of knowing you've been shaped deeply enough to hold what I give, not by your own strength, but through the quiet obedience that built a firm foundation. You will look back and no longer ask, "Why did I have to wait?" Instead, you will say, "Thank you for not giving me what I wanted, but for giving me what I needed at the right time, in the right way, according to your will." And my child, sometimes what hurts the most is not the loss of something tangible, but the feeling of being unseen, misunderstood. You may stand among a crowd, fulfill your responsibilities, live uprightly, yet still feel alone like a lone star in a cloudy sky. You've wondered, does anyone truly see the sacrifices I quietly bear? Does anyone understand the burdens I cannot put into words? Does anyone notice the righteous choices I've made without applause? Without recognition? My dear child, I see it all. Not one decision made out of love and righteousness is forgotten in my heart. I see when you choose forgiveness, though the wound remains. I know when you place obedience above emotion, when you keep walking even with weary feet. I've recorded every silent prayer, every time you turned away to avoid lashing out in anger, every moment you bowed instead of demanding justice for yourself. These things, though unnoticed by the world, are crowns of glory before crowns no one can take away. You don't need to speak up to prove your worth when I am the one who defined you before the beginning of time. You don't have to fight to be loved when my love for you has never changed. When you feel like you're being pushed to the margins, it's not because you're inadequate, but because I am setting you apart, keeping you from being influenced by things that were never meant for you. I am consecrating you, forming within you a character that the world cannot comprehend, but heaven deeply honors. It is the character of one who is chosen not for being impressive, but for being able to hear and obey my voice amidst the noise of the world. You may not realize it, but in the process of placing you in a quiet place away from the crowds, I am training you to become an instrument that will carry my glory into places where light has never reached. I am not building a comfortable life for you. I am shaping a person who can carry eternal influence. And to form that kind of person, sometimes I must take you through a journey known only to you and me. These are the seasons when you must stand firm, not because someone stands beside you, but because I dwell within you. Remember the people of Israel in their journey out of Egypt. They didn't walk straight into the promised land. They had to go through the wilderness. Not because I wanted them to suffer, but because I needed them to learn how to live free from their old chains. What they were familiar with could not go with them to the place I was leading them. They had to learn to eat manna from heaven instead of the food of slavery. They had to learn to follow the pillar of cloud by day and fire by night, not the familiarity of their past. And they had to learn to trust me daily, not stockpile safety for themselves. You, too, are walking through your own wilderness, where every old confidence is being stripped away so that you may learn to live by faith and obedience. When I withhold something from your hands, it is not because you are unworthy. It is precisely because you are precious that I do not want you to settle for what is incomplete. I do not let you take hold of the good when I am preparing the best, and the best often requires time because I delay, but because you need to be strong enough to carry it. Just as a goldsmith watches the fire closely to refine every impurity, I am watching over your life so that every experience leads to a good and perfect outcome. One pain wasted, not one lesson missed. You do not need to strive to hold on to something I never gave. And don't cling to what I've already asked you to let go of. Don't fear the emptiness that obedience sometimes leaves behind, for that very emptiness is the space I will fill with my presence and true blessing. The more you learn to trust me in what you do not yet understand, the more you will step into the land of things unseen, unheard, and unimagined, prepared in advance for those who love me. Beloved, in this spiritual journey, there will be steps you must take alone and no applause. No companions. No clear map in hand. These are the quiet steps, but they are the ones that matter most to me. It is in those moments when external motivation fades and human support is no longer there that I finally have the space to become everything to you. Do not fear the lonely seasons, for they are the very places where your soul will be drawn closest to me. And in that closeness, you will learn lessons that no book or sermon can teach you. Will learn through my living presence. My child, there are things I reveal not for you to share right away, but to etch deeply into your heart. There are seasons I lead you through not to be testified about immediately, but to shape, heal, and restore you. Do not rush out of the quiet place just because you see others moving forward. I do not measure maturity by speed or visibility, but by the degree to which you are willing to let me mold you. And not everyone is willing to remain in the fire long enough to be purified. But you are there, and I see your perseverance. It rises like a fragrant offering, and it pleases me deeply. My child, I am preparing you not just to get through a difficult season, but to step into a role far greater in influence than you can imagine. And because of that influence, the preparation must be deeper and more thorough. If the foundation is not firm, the house will collapse when the winds blow. Likewise, if your heart is not strong enough, blessings can become burdens. I never want what I give you to become the very thing that draws you away from me. So before I open the doors, I make sure you are grounded enough to remain faithful within what you've prayed for. There are callings you will only understand in hindsight. You may not realize you are being trained until you find yourself overcoming challenges you once thought impossible. I am strengthening you each day, even when you don't feel it. I am enlarging your heart to hold more wisdom, more compassion, more humility, more courage. Every crack in your heart is not a sign of breaking, but a space for my light to shine through. Every scar you carry doesn't make you less, but turns you into a living witness of my healing and faithfulness. My dear child, do not compare your process with anyone else's. Each person is led at a unique rhythm, and what you don't see in another's life might be exactly what I'm using to refine yours. Others may seem to advance quickly, but no one knows the lessons they've had to learn in the dark. And perhaps they are on a path I never called you to walk. The truth is, you don't need to be like anyone else. You only need to be who I uniquely designed you to be, with your own purpose and qualities. Listen, my child, I know there are times you grow weary not because of evil, but because you've done good for so long without seeing the reward. But hear this. Faithfulness is never in vain. When you keep doing what's right, even when unseen, heaven watches you most closely. When you press on while everything in you wants to quit, I record every breath of yours into eternal memory. Each time you choose obedience over rebellion, you are building an unshakable foundation, a spiritual legacy that outlives time itself. And don't ever believe that being set apart means you've been forgotten. On the contrary, being set apart is the mark of someone chosen for a greater purpose. When I led Moses into the wilderness for 40 years, it wasn't to confine him, it was to prepare him to be the deliverer of a nation. When I caused John the Baptist to grow up in the desert, it wasn't neglect, it was the way for him to hear my voice more clearly. And when I bring you to a place where it is just you and me, it is so you are undistracted, so that when I speak, you can hear and respond fully. My beloved child, let me tell you something that only souls who have walked through the fire can truly understand. Know that there are doors I close not to reject you, but to save you from yourself. Sometimes you believe what you want is good, that your pursuits are driven by noble intentions. You pour your sincerity, your deepest hopes, even your sacrifices into them. But my child, not everything good is what I have ordained. There are things that seem good in your eyes, yet they lead you away from the eternal goodness I have prepared for you. And because I see the end from the beginning, I step in at the start. You may not understand this immediately, and I don't expect you to understand in order to obey. What I desire is that you trust me enough to accept even what doesn't make sense, that you love me enough to place my will above your own desires. Because when you do that, you are not only walking with me, you are living as my friend. And just as Abraham became my friend through his unconditional obedience, so too will you enter deeper into fellowship with me if you keep a tender heart through the unexpected turns of life. You don't have to cling to what is past. You don't have to grieve endlessly over what I've taken away. Because if you knew the things I've kept you from, your heart would overflow with gratitude instead of regret. There are connections that may have seemed like the answer to your prayers, but I saw their true roots. I saw the hidden motives, the spiritual dangers you hadn't yet perceived, even the future where your very soul might be compromised for what you thought was love. And so I intervened decisively. What you may see as pain, I see as rescue. My dear one, there are lessons that can only be learned through loss. But from that very loss, you will find something nothing else can replace. You will find me. When everything you once leaned on is gone, when every place you called safe crumbles, when every dream you once drew up falls apart, I will still be there, steady, unchanging, always ready to hold you. You will discover a love that isn't measured by your achievements, not confined by time, and never withdrawn because of failure. That love will be the refuge of your soul in every season of life. My beloved, when you have walked through places you once feared, when you've learned to sing without an audience and to take steps without a companion, you will recognize something sacred. You have grown, not in knowledge, but in strength, not in the eyes of the world, but in my heart. You will no longer be a person shaped by the push and pull of circumstances, but one who stands firm on my promises. You won't need every answer anymore, because you have my presence and where I am. You lack nothing. Remember, David did not ascend to the throne on the day he was anointed. He had to flee, to wait, to be misunderstood. He had to refuse revenge and learn to lean on me rather than on weapons or the strategies of men. But because he chose the path of obedience, the throne he inherited was not just the throne of a kingdom, but the throne of a heart aligned with mine. Likewise, your reward is not just the fulfillment of a desire, but the formation of a soul shaped by my own hand. So do not regret what I've closed. Don't dwell on doors that never opened, nor blame yourself for endings you didn't expect. Everything I allow has purpose, And everything I withhold does too. Just because you haven't seen the explanation doesn't mean I'm not at work. Let your faith be greater than your need to understand. Let your obedience come before your clarity. And let my love fill the spaces nothing else can reach. My beloved child, on the journey of pursuing me, there will be times when everything around you seems strangely still. There are no clear directions, no prominent signs, and the things that once affirmed your convictions begin to fade. Yet, it is precisely in that silence that I am inviting you into a deeper dimension where guidance no longer depends on emotion, but emerges from discernment, forged through time, through experience, and through your personal relationship with me. You are no longer someone who waits for miracles to believe, but someone who has begun to recognize my presence in even the smallest of details. I once spoke to you through the storm, but now I want to teach you how to hear my voice through the silence. I once guided you through open doors, but now I desire for you to walk in rhythm with my spirit within you. No longer the external light showing the way, but the light within where your faith has taken root. Therefore, I will not always speak loudly, but I will whisper. I will not always push forcefully, but I will stir gently. I will not demand, but I will invite you into a peace so deep it can only be heard by those with spiritual ears. My child, this is the place where you will learn not to be swayed by the winds of public opinion, nor shaken by the changes in circumstance. You will walk in a new freedom from the need to be understood, from the need for everything to be clear, and from the need for every door to open your way. This freedom does not come from knowing all the answers, but from the deep assurance that I am with you. You do not need to worry about the next step when you have obeyed in the present one. I know, dear one, that you've experienced disappointment when what you believed to be signs from me did not lead to the outcomes you had hoped for. But that doesn't mean you heard me wrong. It may be that I used those very steps to teach you something deeper, the difference between my will and personal desires disguised as zeal. Some choices began in sincerity, but were entangled with unrefined ambitions. And I, as a patient father, allowed you to walk a few steps down that path so you could learn to distinguish what is from me and what is from you. Not to make you feel like a failure, but to help you learn how to listen more precisely. You will no longer need to chase after every sign. I don't want you to be dependent on external proofs in order to move forward. I want you to be anchored by the word I have planted in your heart. Once you learn that, you will no longer be shaken when a door closes, because you'll know it was my hand that withheld what wasn't meant for you. And you will no longer fear getting lost, because in every step, you'll be confident that I am with you, and even if you stray, my love is sufficient to gently redirect your path. It is in that process of being corrected that you will come to know the sweetness of being led not by force, but by love. As you enter deeper into discernment, you will begin to realize that not everything that goes smoothly is a blessing, and not everything that resists you is an obstacle. Sometimes, I will use adversity itself to push you in the direction you need to go. Sometimes, I will use doors that seem firmly shut to bring you to your knees where your prayers are no longer lists of requests, but the cry of a heart longing to be one with my will. That is the place where you no longer demand that I act in ways you understand, but willingly let me act in the ways I know are best. My beloved child, when I do not allow you to move forward in a certain direction, it is not because I wish to confuse you. Rather, It is because I want you to pause, to listen, and to ask, Lord, is this you? In that very act of spiritual caution, I am training you to become a person of influence, someone who does not make decisions based on the applause of man, but on the quiet voice of heaven. You are not meant to live merely for today, but with an eternal vision, where each choice carries weight not only for your own life, but also for the souls I have entrusted to your care. My dear child, it is time for you to learn to see life not only with physical eyes, but through the light of my spirit, for there are things which, through human standards, may appear to be failures, delays, or losses, but when viewed through my light, you will see that these are milestones of formation, the foundation for blessings yet to come, sacred transitions that only refined hearts are sensitive enough to perceive. Nothing in your life happens by mere chance. Every event is embedded in the map of an eternal plan I have written before the foundations of the world. There will be moments when I deliberately allow you to hear nothing, see nothing, and understand nothing, not to cause you to wander, but to teach you not to rely on your own understanding. I want you to learn how to stand firm, not because you know every detail of the plan, but because you know the one who authored it. At times, you will have to choose to move forward without clear confirmation, without others' agreement, and without favorable circumstances. And it is precisely in those moments that you will discover where your faith truly lies. Is it in the outcome, or is it in me? My child, I see the moments when you begin to doubt yourself, when you wonder, did I do something wrong? Is this a punishment? But do not jump to conclusions based on fleeting emotions. My silence is not rejection. It is a call to deeper trust. When a father trains his child to become an heir, he does not always explain every step, but he is always present to guide. So it is with me. I do not always explain, but I always accompany, and my presence is often strongest in the very silence you may find unsettling. I am teaching you something few are willing to learn: obedience without needing a reason, faithfulness without needing proof, love without needing a reward. For true love is not based on what is received, but on trust in the nature of the one who is loved. If you only trust me when all goes well, that is not yet mature faith. But if you still hold my hand when everything else is falling away, then you have entered a sacred space that no one can touch or shake. My precious one, perhaps you once expected deliverance to come from a certain place, a certain person, or at a specific time, and when it did not happen, you felt disappointed, maybe even disheartened. But you did not realize that I am not only the deliverer, I am also the one who chooses the way of deliverance. I am not limited by method or timeline. I can use the most unexpected means to bring about the answer you have prayed for. And often, the way I choose will go completely against what you had in mind, not to confuse you, but to show you that my power is not confined to any formula. Think of those I have chosen through the generations. I did not take Joseph from dream to throne overnight. I did not lead the Israelites from Egypt to the promised land in a straight path. I did not place David on the throne immediately after he was anointed. In each story, there were twists and turns, pauses, and seemingly meaningless dead ends. But when my appointed time came, everything connected in such perfect alignment that no one could deny it was I who had orchestrated it all. You, too, are in the midst of such a journey. Perhaps today, things remain unclear. Perhaps you still see dreams delayed. promises yet to be fulfilled. But let your heart rest in this truth: I never forget what I have spoken. If a promise has come from my mouth, it will never return void. It will accomplish the purpose for which I sent it. And sometimes, that purpose is not only to give you what you hope for, but to shape you into someone worthy of receiving it. So, my child, keep walking, even when the path is shrouded in fog, even when your heart is torn by doubt. Remain faithful. Do not seek certainty in circumstances, seek steadfastness in me. And when you stand firm, when you do not yield to the temptation to give up, I will renew your strength. I will help you run without growing weary. Walk without fainting, because you are not running alone. I am right here, upholding you, guiding you, and sustaining every step you take. My beloved, when I close a path, it does not mean I have denied your destiny. On the contrary, it is proof that I am preserving you for something greater. The limits I place are not meant to restrain, but to refine, not to discourage, but to make you resilient. I do not desire that you merely be blessed, but that you become a blessing to others. And to be a vessel of life, you must endure a refining process, unpleasant, yet deeply necessary. You may have felt held back while others seem to be propelled forward. You may have wondered why good things come more quickly to others, while you are left to wait, to face trial after trial. But remember this, my child, not everyone is trained to stand in high places. Not everyone is chosen to be a pillar for others to lean on. Not everyone is entrusted with influence that transcends time. I tell you, you are one of the few, and for that reason, your preparation cannot be rushed. Just as a potter never places a precious vessel into the fire before it is fully shaped, I will not bring you into the fullness of blessing until your heart is deep enough, humble enough, and discerning enough to hold what I give. Otherwise, what was meant to be a reward will become a burden, and what was meant to be a blessing may turn into a stumbling block. I do not want that for you. My love for you does not seek quick success, but lasting strength. Have you noticed that in Scripture? Those whom I used most powerfully all endured a season of being hidden. Moses, before he was used to deliver Israel, spent 40 years in the wilderness, far from the palace and its acclaim. Paul, after encountering me on the road to Damascus, did not immediately enter ministry, but remained in obscurity to learn and be set apart. Even Jesus, my beloved Son, lived 30 years in humility and hiddenness before stepping into his mission publicly. Do you see? Those who carry eternal fire are always forged first in the quiet flame, and I am doing this within you, not to delay your calling, but to protect it from haste and error. I am using every moment of waiting to chisel your heart. Every limitation you encounter is part of the mold I have set to shape a heart that reflects mine. Each time you refuse to compromise for what is easy, you are declaring once again that you belong to me. And when the time comes, you will not have to fight for position, nor strive to carve your own way, because I, myself, will rise for you. I will act in a way that no one can hinder. My beloved, do not fear when you find yourself cut off from what seemed like the right person, the right time. Do not panic when everything you expected fails to unfold as hoped. For you are not losing your destiny, you are being protected from detours that would derail it. There are doors which, if opened too soon, would lead you astray. There are relationships which, if not severed in time, would become chains to your soul. And there are positions which, if held before you're ready, would rob you of the simplicity that pleases me. That is why I would rather allow you to hurt for a moment than let you lose yourself forever. My child, be at peace, for I do not only cut away, I also promise restoration. When I take something away, it is not the end. It is the beginning of what truly fits your soul. What I have prepared for you will not cost you your peace, will not demand your holiness, and will not trap you in the cycle of blind emotions. When it arrives, you will know, because it will not only bring joy, it will deepen you. It will not only make you strong, it will make you tender. It will not only complete you, will draw you closer to me. Dear one, do not fear the hidden season. Do not regret the closed door. Do not grieve over the good thing that was lost, for I am holding something better for the right time. When I restore, you will know that every tear you cried, every time you chose faith over bitterness, every wound you endured in faithfulness, it was all worth it. You will stand in the place I promised, with a heart refined, with a faith unshaken, and with a joy that no one can take from you. And in that moment, you will understand, when I closed one road, I was not rejecting you. I was leading you to the path that would bring you far beyond anything you ever dreamed. My beloved child, the season of waiting is nearing its end. What was once hidden will begin to unfold. The seeds I planted in your heart in silence will begin to sprout, no longer lying dormant in the dark. You have walked through long days that seemed hopeless, nights without answers, years sustained only by the whisper of faith keeping you standing. And now, as my appointed time draws near, I want you to know that everything you endured had a purpose. Not one moment was wasted or meaningless. You have passed through closed doors not to be halted forever, but to enter the right one I have ordained. You may not recognize it when it happens. You may feel left behind, overlooked, forgotten in a world that rushes forward, but you do not realize that in that very stillness, I have been reshaping you into an image you had never seen before. I have not only healed you from old wounds, I have taught you to see with new eyes. Eyes of one who has passed through fire but was not consumed, who has fallen but was not broken, who was sifted but did not lose their faith. My child, there is a profound truth that only those who have walked through the wilderness can truly grasp: the power of silence. It is in silence that you learn to hear the true voice from heaven. It is in silence that you learn to distinguish between what I desire and what you long for. It is in silence that you come to understand that my delays are not punishments, but preparations not to make you doubt, but to make you unshakable. And the beautiful thing is this: you did not abandon me even when you didn't understand me. That is a victory recorded in heaven. Now, my child, it is time for you to rise, not by your own strength, but by the power of my Spirit alive within you, not with regret, but with gratitude, not carrying the marks of old wounds, but bearing the light of someone who has been touched by the power of restoration. What you've gone through has not defiled you, has refined you. Those who turn their backs on you do not define your worth. What you thought was lost does not diminish the reward I have prepared. You are not behind. You are right on Timion, heaven's time. My beloved, look again not with the eyes of regret, but with the gaze of one who understands the sacred journey. Closed doors were not rejections, but my whisper: my child, Do not go this way. Delayed seasons were not punishments. But divine protection. And unanswered prayers were not forgotten, but held back for a greater blessing. Every waiting in me carries purpose. And now you are standing on the threshold of a season of unveiling. I have destined you to walk into fulfillment, not the kind of success the world defines, but the fulfillment of a soul molded, refined, and faithfully walking with me against all odds. The fulfillment of maturity that is no longer swayed by emotion, of stability no longer shaken by doubt, and of depth that needs no recognition. As you enter this new season, you will not step in with fear of loss, but with gratitude for divine preservation. You will no longer chase what pleases others, but will walk in what pleases me. And that is where the deepest peace is found. So do not look back with eyes of regret. Do not blame yourself for the turns you couldn't understand. Do not grieve over the seasons that seemed interrupted. All of it holds a place in the story I am writing for you. Every line is recorded with purpose. And now, a new chapter is unfolding, a chapter of restoration, establishment, and walking in the true destiny I ordained for you from the very beginning. My beloved child, when I prepare you for something new, I do not only change the external circumstances, but I also restructure every inner layer of your being. I do not merely open doors. I place within you the capacity to hold what I give. I do not just bring you to a new place. I make you a new person who can stand in favor without pride, walk in blessing without forgetting the source, and live among praise without losing a heart of worship. My child, you have learned to obey when there was no light ahead. You chose faithfulness when there was no certainty beneath your feet. You did not give up when everything around you seemed to fall apart. And now, I want you to know, heaven has seen. Your name is written in the pages of those who overcame by faith, not because you were perfect, but because you persevered, not because you were stronger than others, but because you refused to let go of my hand when all else was lost. That is what sets you apart, not to elevate yourself, but to glorify me. My child, you may not know this, but every time you quietly said yes when no one else was watching, all of heaven rejoiced. In those silent moments when you chose what was right though your heart was breaking, your echo resounded through the courts of heaven. The small, faithful decisions you made each day were seeds planted in good soil. And now, the harvest is coming. Not a fleeting harvest, but a season of establishment when I will place my hand upon your life and declare, this is the one I have chosen. And as Saphan, my beloved, you once asked, how will I know when the time is right? And I say to you now, it is when you are no longer driven by the need for validation, but led by a deep and steady peace. It is when you no longer crave to be seen, yet remain faithful as though the whole world is watching. It is when you know that no recognition matters more than my delight in you. That is when you are ready not because you've met every standard, but because your heart has yielded, quieted from striving, and is now prepared to be used in the way I choose. My child, when I bring you out from the hidden place, you will not walk alone. I will send the right people at the right time, with the right spirit, and in alignment with the frequency of heaven. You will not need to plead or compete. The doors that open will not swing on the hinges of your strength, but on the power of my hand. The arms that uphold you will not do so to flatter, but because I have sent them. And the confirmation you receive will not come from man, but from my voice in the secret place. You are the one in whom I delight. Keep walking forward. End. You no longer need to defend yourself against misunderstanding or opposition. I will be your defender. You need not rush to prove your worth. I will testify on your behalf through the fruit I bring forth through your hands. The weight of success is not yours to bear. Your role is faithfulness. Mine is to fulfill every promise. And you will see when I stand with you. No one can stand against you. When I go before you, no enemy can block your path. So, my child, prepare your heart to receive the new, not what you once imagined, but what far exceeds every expectation, not simply to fulfill your desires, but to complete the high purpose I have destined for your life. That which was delayed will begin to be released. That which was unclear will come into focus, and you will no longer ask, Lord, why did this happen to me? But will begin to say, Lord, how wondrous that you kept me hidden for this very moment. And therefore, you will stand with strength not because everything is perfect, but because you were shaped within imperfection. You will walk with new authority not born from status, but from deep obedience. You will become a voice no because you sought influence, but because you lived true to what I spoke. And it is that truth that will cause light to radiate from your life like the dawn after a storm, reaching into hearts that are searching for me through you. My beloved, now, as you stand at the intersection of what was and what is to come, I want you to know you are no longer the same person who began this journey. The pain that once marked you no longer holds you. The disappointments that once brought you to your knees no longer define you. The questions that once confused you have now made room for a peace that cannot be shaken. And that this very grow this, the clearest sign that you are ready to step into a brand new season, a season of establishment, restoration, and commissioning. I have trained you not merely to survive, but to stand firm, not by human strength, but by a power that comes from above. I did not allow you to walk through painful seasons just to earn the sympathy of others. I let you experience them so that you would carry a kind of authority that only those refined by fire can possess. Authority is not found in lofty words, but in quiet, resolute action. It does not come from status, but from a heart humbled before the Almighty. I remind you, so that you will remember, you no longer need to prove anything. Your task now is not to justify your choices, but to live as a living testimony of my faithfulness. Your very presence will be the answer for those who once doubted. Your peace will be a sign for those who are confused. Your steadfastness will be a pillar for those who are trembling. For you no longer live just for yourself. You have been sent to uphold, to heal, to awaken the souls still slumbering in dark days. My child, open your heart to receive all that I have prepared. No longer will your tears fall for what never came, but tears of gratitude will flow for what arrived in perfect time. No longer will your voice echo with lament for past losses, but with praise for what is now blooming after the storm. No longer will your steps falter like one who has fallen, but they will stride forward like one who has learned to rise in my strength. And I, the one who was with you in the shadows, will also be the one who honors you in the light. My beloved, I will go before you in every plan. I will protect you in every action. I will grant you wisdom so that you are not swayed by the traps of recognition, and I will give you discernment so that you are not lost in seasons of abundance. You will see me move not only through your hands, but through your words, your eyes, your very presence. I will make your life a living declaration that I am faithful, that my promises never fall to the ground in vain, and that those who remain faithful are never forgotten. Now, I place my hand upon you and declare, you are the one I have chosen, not because you are perfect, but because you are willing, not because you measure up to the standards of this world, but because your heart has yielded to me, not because you have everything, but because you have surrendered everything. From this day on, you will walk no longer with the mindset of one seeking approval, but with the assurance that you have been sent by the one who holds all seasons and destinies in his hand. You will no longer be the one who only sees dreams in sleep, but the one who lives in the fulfillment of dreams birthed from promises. You will no longer be ruled by the past, but will live with the vision of one who knows whose hands hold the future. And with every step, you will not walk alone. I am with you when you speak, when you act, when you pray, when you love, when you dare to stand where others are afraid to lift their heads. My beloved, go, live with new courage. Let the light within you not be dimmed by fear, nor strangled by the past. You have been forged, refined, and renewed, and now you are sent, not as one who is still searching, but as one who is found, not as one who is still waiting, but as one who is fulfilling, not as one who is alone, but as a messenger backed by heaven. Go forth, my child. The old season has come to a close. My protection is covering you. My glory goes before you. My establishment rests upon your head like an unfading crown, and everything I have promised you, I will fulfill. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so we can receive together the living words. Build a firm foundation of faith and walk in the boundless love of the Lord. Amen.